So Peters Pasta, Ryan Peters, thanks for joining, man. It's been an interesting couple months. And a lot of people, I've been following you, and we can get into that and like Brunois
Sure.
and your restaurant
Yeah.
life. And I know I've associated. I've certainly never been a part of like the Bocuse Foundation or anything like that,
Yeah.
but um, I'm really close friends with Corey Siegel, and I
Sure.
helped him with Team USA. So I of course knew of you, and then TikTok happens, and
Nice.
it's like this amazing life changing experience.
Yeah.
Uh, so what was the video? What started it for you?
It was my first video.
Really?
Yeah. So it's weird. Actually, I was just on a podcast the other day talking about this with somebody. So last July, I had my little brother and his girlfriend out in Pittsburgh staying with my wife and I for a weekend. And that's when TikTok was really starting to gain some traction, and they're college kids and they were talking to me about TikTok, and I'm like, what the hell is this TikTok thing? So he's showing me all these videos. So I ended up making an account that night just to kind of like whatever download it, and then I didn't post my first video until about a year ago this week in September, and it was just simple, rolling a cavatelli across a gnocchi board,
Sure.
and it got like 500,000 views overnight.
Damn.
And it was like that first one, I was like, holy shit, there might be something here on this app. And then yeah, kind of just took advantage of it and kind of kept going. And there's been the dips, the highs, the lows, like for everybody. But it's been a weird couple months.
Amazing. It's funny you say that because it kind of started opposite for me. I knew about TikTok. Well, I had Musically. I had
Okay.
the app
Yeah.
Musically, but I they promoted the crap of out of it on Facebook and stuff like that. So I
Sure.
always would see bizarre, cringy voiceovers or lip
Yeah.
sync,
Yeah.
and I'm like, I am a sucker for like cringe compilations. So I'm like, this is it for me. This is my
Yeah.
favorite
Oh
app.
yeah.
So I
Yeah.
download Musically and I like fall in love with it. Like it
Yeah.
is just as cringy as I want it to be, but there's
Yep.
tons of like awesome creators on there.
Oh yeah.
Um, and then it turns into TikTok. I remember people crying like that it was
Really?
gonna, yeah, like people were crying like they thought Musically was gonna go away and this and that. And so I get the app and I'm like, you know what? I don't see anybody that I know certainly, or I was embarrassed. I was embarrassed to tell people I had TikTok. Um, just because it was for like 14-year-old girls, and I'm
Yeah. Oh
certainly
yeah.
not that as much as maybe sometimes I'd like to be. Um, but I get the app and I'm like, you know what? It is what it is. Let's make a pizza. And I just make some pizza at work and I do all the crazy filters on it and
Yeah.
it doesn't nothing happens and
Sure.
months go by and I don't do anything and months go by and then I finally um I'm just home way more during the COVID, and
Yeah.
I throw a steak on the grill over like open fire, and I
Yeah.
get one of those like not viral videos, but like 40,
Something
fifty
here.
thousand views in one day. I'm like,
Yep.
whoa, what is going on here? Because I couldn't do anything to get like 10,000 views on Instagram.
Yeah.
So I'm like, this
Yeah.
is
Oh
it.
yeah.
Like so TikTok's been fun, man, and we certainly have that in common.
Yeah, man. Absolutely. It's brought a lot of really cool people together, I think.
That's I couldn't agree more, and that's been the best part about it is like the community.
Yep.
I've met some awesome people, certainly some
I
awesome
agree.
people.
Yeah, I mean, I think Instagram is cool for what it is, but I've met and made better relationships on TikTok than I have in like 10 years on Instagram. You know what I mean?
Absolutely,
It's
yeah,
insane.
yeah. It's awesome. So, um, now I'm always curious about this. So I always see you make these giant old school pastas, right? And this is
Yeah,
like
yeah,
I don't know. I would say like this is totally your thing.
yeah,
What do you do with all this pasta? You make all this dough. It's like, what do you
yeah.
do with all
So
this
that's the
pasta?
$1 million question. So everybody always asks what I do with all the pasta and what I do with all the egg whites.
Okay.
So I mean, I obviously don't eat all the pasta. People think I only eat pasta or only make pasta. That's not the case. But I roll a lot. I freeze a lot of the shapes that I make and just keep that in my freezer. I dry a lot of shapes. I give a lot to friends and family and all kinds of that. For a while there during this whole like quarantine thing, I was making like hundreds of lasagnas and selling them as like a little side hustle.
Oh,
And like fresh lasagna takes a ton of like pasta sheets, like fresh
sure.
pasta sheets. So that
Yeah.
was a lot. But yeah, it's not like I'm like doing it just for like just to do it and throw it away.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because like people underestimate, man, a little pasta ball like this big makes a ton of pasta.
Oh
So,
yeah,
you know,
it's yeah, it's it really it goes a long way.
for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and we were kind of talking before. So you spent a lot of your career in Florida, right?
Yeah, so I went to culinary school and then did my culinary externship down in Florida at the Ocean Reef Club. It's like a private club down there. Kind of did like a 6 month externship, rotated through all the different like food outlets, and then kind of spent most of my time though doing like banquet work as like a banquet cook. Um, and then eventually, after my externship, moved to Pittsburgh for the first time. It's where my now wife, she was my girlfriend at the time, she was living. I wanted, young love, you want to be close to them. So
Hey, there you
moved
go.
up here, took a job for like a year and a half at a restaurant. And then it's weird, just kind of like the power of relationships and like building like good, strong relationships. Pretty much ever since I left, just like as an extern, my externship, the club was always trying to call me and trying to get me back. Um, so eventually, when I was kind of ending the time at like what I knew was going to be the end of my time at that restaurant, that call sure enough came one week, and I said, you know what? I mean, yeah, I'll come back if you give my girlfriend a job. She's a baker. She does pastry work. So they never even interviewed her, never took her resume. They said, okay, when can you guys start? And
Yeah.
we flew down like 3 weeks later, and then yeah, I spent like just under 4 years there at that time as the banquet sous chef.
Okay. That's who was the chef through that process? Who was the like your
So yeah, so the executive chef down there is a guy named Philippe Renaud. He's like a really like classic old school French chef. He was a really great mentor to me down there. And but the thing is, what's cool with Ocean Reef is it's such a large property. They've got like I think 17 different like food outlets. So there's so much, especially for young cooks. It's a great place because you have banquets, you have fine dining, you have the beach grill, you've got the Italian, the steakhouse. So it really kind of opens you up to all different kinds of cuisine and different casual to fine dining. It gives you a lot of different options.
Yeah, absolutely. And I worked at a property called the Greenbrier, and
Yep. Yeah.
I people ask me all the time, and I'd love to hear what you think about it. But kids coming up, and especially on the app, which is amazing. I'll be like, hey, I'm 12 years old, and I'm really interested in cooking. Do you have any
Yeah.
advice? I always tell people get a job in your town at one of the best
Yep.
restaurants, even if it's a prep cook or a dishwashing position. But if you're serious and you go to culinary school, you should go to a big property somewhere and just get your butt kicked for even if it's a year or half a year.
Yep.
And something like the Ocean Reef, you said Ocean Reef Club,
Yep. Exactly.
yeah, Ocean Reef Club or the Everglades Club or the Greenbrier or something like along those lines where you
Yep.
see banquets, you see fine dining, you see like poolside cooking where you learn
Yep.
how to, cook like um, burgers and dogs. I mean, that stuff is
Yeah. Oh yeah.
important. It's important. I mean, that's like the foundation is learning how to cook tickets, and then
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, when I was on my externship down there, what's cool about the Ocean Reef is their extern program is they rotate you for 1 week in every single food outlet, and then at the end of that rotation, then you get to decide where you want to do the majority of your externship.
mm,
So when I rotated, I thought for sure I wanted to go into the fine dining restaurant, and I ended up. I wasn't exactly sure, so I called one of my chefs from culinary school, and I said, chef, I don't know what to do. And he said, listen, if you have the chance to go work in a banquet department, especially one, as regarded as Ocean Reef, and you have that opportunity, take it because it's so much easier for a banquet cook to go to become a line cook and a line cook to become a banquet cook. He's like, you need to learn that quantity. If you
mm,
can learn how to cook for 400 people, it's a lot easier to translate that to working in a restaurant versus pulling, I think, a restaurant cook out and having them do, a catering event for 2,000 people. You know what I mean?
oh yeah, yeah, absolutely. I agree with that. But man, like it this was something that and it's funny you say that because this is something I've always I don't want to say regretted, but thought maybe I
Yeah.
did this wrong was that my first line cooking experience was at the Greenbrier. And I was
Okay.
like, so I show up with my knife roll thinking that I'm just gonna pick parsley all day and some French chef
Yeah.
was gonna yell at me.
Yeah.
Well, no, I get to work and a ticket goes off, and I'm like, oh, what's this thing? What's that
Yeah.
noise? This haunting noise that every
Yeah.
chef knows.
That everybody knows.
And that's what nightmares are made of. But that's how you learn. You just jump into the
Absolutely.
fire. But that's incredible. So now, when I first saw you through doing the Boku store program,
Sure.
and then
Yeah.
but then one thing that I first reached out to you, you might not remember this, probably 3, 4, maybe even 5 years ago. You had opened that. It was like a crowd share restaurant, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was, when I was feeling it was time for me to leave Ocean Reef, I was looking for the next thing to do. We thought for sure, my wife and I, that we were going to move to Chicago, and I was going to work in, 3 Michelin. I really wanted to work at Grace Restaurant. I had a
Oh
stage
yeah.
set up there. I was going to go work at Grace. That was going to be the thing. And then a friend reached out and told me about this restaurant incubator food hall in Pittsburgh, um, that was looking for a new like round of chefs and restaurants to come in. So I was a little intrigued by it. Ended up applying, flew up for a tasting, all that kind of stuff, and got offered a position to like a spot to open up my own restaurant of my own. And the way that worked, it was basically every 12 months they rotated in 4 new chefs to
Oh
open up their own restaurant. Um, and basically, I had to set up an LLC. Had to set up. I mean, I owned a business. It was
yeah.
just inside of their infrastructure. And man, that was the craziest, hardest year of my life by far. It was, man, it was weird, but I learned a ton. Um, Everybody always asks me like my thoughts on it. I always say the same thing. Am I glad I did it? Absolutely. Would I do it again? Not a chance.
Well, it's funny. I was on a phone call today with a friend, and it's one thing that I've taken away from this TikTok experience is like
Yeah,
I'm not sure that opening a restaurant is what I really want to do.
yeah,
And that was always the goal. But now
sure.
it's like, maybe I don't know, it's maybe it just struck a match of luck or whatever the case is. But I mean, you got to work pretty hard to sell $1,000 worth of cheeseburgers, uh,
It's insane.
or $1,000 worth of pizzas.
Of
Um,
anything, yeah, it's insane.
and this podcast, I've learned a tremendous amount about and doing like the brand deals and stuff.
Yeah,
It's not light work either. It's just
no,
different. Just use
yeah,
your mind more than your body and your time.
absolutely. It's a different type of stress for sure.
Right, right. What's it like for you? I mean, is this going to be? We're probably in a similar situation in terms of where we're at. Like, I think you have just passed 400,000 followers, right?
Yeah, yep,
Okay, now I'm approaching 400. We might even get that today.
yeah,
Um, what do you? It's kind of a purgatory state. You don't know what is because when this first happened, I've
yeah,
made this joke before, but I've got this viral video. I'm like, this is awesome. Hollywood's gonna call me and set up an apartment for me any minute, and that certainly didn't happen.
yeah,
But now it's like, yeah, now I think there is a line of,
for sure.
where you can be successful here, but
Yep,
um, it's not there yet.
yeah.
So what's your thoughts? What's your plan?
I mean, my plans with it all and kind of everything, and this is just kind of my philosophy on life in general, is just to kind of keep everything open.
Sure.
I've always never been one to kind of set, different parameters for my life. I kind of just, take what comes at me, and kind of, I don't like to say no to things. Kind of just like this, you texted me like, yes, absolutely, of course I come on. It's just kind of like take as many opportunities that come my way and kind of see where they lead me. So, if something bigger comes out of this, then absolutely I'm going to embrace it. But I'm also not, trying to steer myself in a certain direction. I'm just kind of letting everything happen, that falls into place. And, so far it's working out, and hopefully it, keeps going that way.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I think there's a lot of success comes when you don't try to force something.
Exactly.
I think you fall on your face more than you be successful trying to force stuff.
It's got to be natural for sure.
And this how this TikTok thing was. I never in a million years thought I would be, sitting here talking to you or any of the people we've had on.
Yeah.
And this has been, and like you just said, this has been like a vessel for me because I'm so passionate about the podcast. This is
Yeah,
like my baby.
yeah,
This is like what I want. Uh, I think we're growing and it's becoming awesome. But I'm so passionate about the podcast, and I think like I'm so happy that TikTok's happened and Instagram and stuff like that, and I'm getting the support that we can kind of let this thing sail, you know. And
yeah. Absolutely. It kind of it builds everything up to kind of like you for the podcast, kind of push it up and kind of push it out there to be bigger than you didn't have the platform of TikTok to kind of help you get there. Exactly.
exactly, exactly. So when can we expect your podcast?
Hopefully soon. I'm hoping with like maybe around Christmas time it'll make the big reveal. Just working on kind of getting it exactly where I want it to be, and get right guests lined up and the right dialogue for how I want to format it and all that stuff, because it's just there's a lot. I mean, as you know with tips, there's a lot of moving parts.
There is, and one thing I underestimated was like I'm like, listen, we know these guys. We can call Ryan Peters and he'll answer the phone. We don't have to email people we don't know.
Yeah.
How hard can it be? And that, but we figured it out pretty quick.
Right.
We're making a lot of success, but it's a lot of work. We've taken on probably another full time job,
Yeah,
and we
for
both
sure.
work. Tim Densmore, the producer, and myself, we both work full time jobs. So,
Yeah,
um, but I think because it's like a passion for us and we love
for
doing
sure. It's
it,
a passion project. Yeah, you're it's a different type of work.
right?
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah.
Um, what's the you had a I wanted to ask you, didn't you have a video go you made like Addison Ray or Charlie D'Amelio some pasta or something? Did you do
Yeah,
that?
yeah, yeah. So that one did well. Yeah, I just posted like, this pasta is for Addison Ray. Help me get it to her, and it did. I mean, she commented on it. She didn't follow me.
I know.
That's all right.
It's
That's all
no,
right.
well, it's
But
funny you say that because I made a pizza for Bella Porch.
I saw that. Yeah,
Yeah, and it was bizarre. I'm like, because I've done it for David Dobrik, I've done it for I'm the J. She was a huge creator.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
when I first started, I think she's
Okay.
still, she's still a big creator, but
Yeah,
people come and go a little bit. But I'm the J. I got her, and then but Bella Porch. It was bizarre. It was like she commented in like the first 10 minutes.
really.
Yeah, and I was like, what? This was supposed to be like challenging, but so then I'm like,
Yeah,
all
yeah,
right, I got this. So I hit David Dobrik up last week or whatever, and I'm
yeah.
still waiting on him. But
It's weird, man. TikTok's so weird too, isn't it? Because like some videos too, at least for me, like some videos that I put like tons of effort to and I like go crazy with, it just flops.
it's the
And then
worst.
some kind of video that I just throw up just, for a quick little layup, it just blows up. And
It's
it's like,
amazing.
what?
It's
Doesn't
hard.
make sense.
It's hard to get your hands on it a little bit because like
It is.
I'm
It
like
really is.
I'm like this is what this is checks all the boxes
Yep.
for a viral video, and
Yeah.
then I get like 1,000 views. I'm ready to pull whatever hair I got left out.
Yeah. Yeah. You're
So
checking it every 30 seconds. Like, what? What?
it's amazing. It's amazing. But again, and I don't want to sound like a complainer because that's one thing. I was talking to a guy, and we were talking about my friend Corey, who's a chef, which Corey Siegel.
Yeah.
I was
Yeah.
talking about how I'm like I'm like if talking back about it, I do want to slap myself.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I'm like, yeah, I posted, this recipe on TikTok and I asked people to go follow me on Instagram and I have 300,000 followers on TikTok, but I only got like 1,000 followers today. And he was like, shut up. Like,
Yeah.
do you know how hard you have to work for 1,000 followers and you got it
Yep.
in one day? And it's a
Yep.
great perspective changer sometimes
It
to
is.
just get slapped by your friends. I think that's
Yeah,
amazing.
take a step back and be like, okay, this isn't, nothing to complain about for sure.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
Now you go live. That's my favorite part about TikTok. It's going live. I wish I could do it more, but
yeah.
you go.
Sometimes I feel like I go live too much, but I just love it. Because that's another thing too. Even like not just like with other like food creators and stuff, that community, but just like the community of like our own followers. At least for me, like I've got people that like I feel like I know. You know what I mean? And they're just like random people, but it's cool to be able to just have that such a close interaction with them. So yeah, it makes me want to go live all the time and just kind of chat and just just kind of bullshit with.
Shoot the shit, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and that was it for me too because when I first started this 10, 20, 30,000 followers, I was just really fortunate for some reason. A bunch of like the big TikTokers like yourself, um, a cook named Matt, Chef
Yep.
Crusoe. A lot of those guys followed me, like Dano's Seasoning. They followed me
Okay. Yeah.
real
Yeah.
early on and
Yeah.
kind of like helped me, water the seed a little bit.
Yep.
But they would come into my like a Chef Crusoe was coming to my live and he would just be like saying like, SupChef sits while he pees and
Oh man, he goes wild.
uh,
He's a wild boy.
yeah, but that's how I grew up with brothers and friends
Yeah.
that we rip on each
Yeah.
other and like that kind of stuff. Like you can't get that on Instagram. I mean,
No. No.
that's why
No.
TikTok I think is the elite app right now.
It's got. I mean, it's taken over. I mean, all social media feels like it's just it's a different place.
Absolutely, absolutely. So are now a lot of people think I think a lot of people know me for pizza, right? And I'd
Sure.
say a lot of people know you for pasta, but when I see you post pizza, it looks freaking awesome. So so I think maybe we got to get you making some pizza for us here soon.
I know. Yeah, I've been fortunate. The place I'm working at now, like my full time job, like I run the pasta program there, but I mean, it started as a Detroit style pizzeria.
Yeah.
So we do Detroit style pizza, but then we also mess around just like for like staff meal and stuff, making like circle pies and stuff. Um, but yeah, it's fun. I mean, I love eating pizza, so might as well enjoy making it too.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was I've said this a lot and people are probably annoyed with me saying it, but that was my thing. I was so chasing this fine dining dream and
Yep.
trying to make terrines and shit that nobody cares about.
Yeah.
And then like I would make this plate and I would try to plate it up like I was working at 11 Madison Park and it just
Yeah.
and then I would just be like, "Oh, it looks all right. Cool. I'll take a picture of it, put it on Instagram." Got like 3 likes. And then
Yep.
not that I care too much about likes, but it's like but then I go put that down and like I order a pizza and that's like what I really care
Yeah.
about.
Yep.
So, I think it's just a coming of age thing. You just find out what's important to you.
That's the thing. This industry really, for some people, it takes little bit while to kind of really find your lane. I mean, for me too, I was the same way. I thought fine dining all the way. I mean, I thought forever I was the French Laundry. That's where I'm going to work. That's what I want to do. I want 3 Michelin stars. I'm going to be a 3 Michelin star chef. Um, and I mean, it's just. I think I still love it. I think I respect the shit out of it. People that do
Same,
that every
totally,
day,
totally.
but and I love to eat it. I'd love to go, tasting menus and stuff. But for me, that's just not what I want to do every day.
Mhm.
You know?
What now? Can you? I think this is the one thing the one thing I driving here. I was like, I definitely got to ask him this.
Yeah,
What was your experience like with Chef Thomas Keller? Because I mean, that's kind of like I don't want to say like the pin. Yeah, I guess that's probably the pinnacle place to work in this
yeah.
country. Where would you? What would you give us a little bit of insight on that?
Well, I mean, I think I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. I've been very fortunate, and like I don't look like take it lightly. Like how fortunate I have for the experiences I've had, and the relationships I've made with like some of the world's best chefs. Like cooking for them, feeding them, hanging out with them. It's amazing. Um, but yeah, I mean, the French Laundry, I was able to get through like the Mentor BKB Foundation. I've done 2 of their competitions, and then I got their Young Chef Grant, the Mentor Grant, which basically allows you to go anywhere in the world. For at the time when I did it, now it's only 1 month, but at the time it was you could either do 1, 2, or 3 months anywhere in the world. They pay for your lodging, they pay for your salary, they pay for. I mean,
That's
one to
amazing.
get a salary for a stage is unheard of.
That's amazing. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
amazing.
so I thought I was going to go to Cellar de Con Roca, which at the time was the number one in the world.
Hmm.
But something got messed up with my visa, so I couldn't go there. So I
And
always joke,
that's a restaurant in Spain, right?
yeah, in
Okay.
Girona, Spain. Yep. So I always joke around and say I had to go to the French Laundry. But yeah, the laundry was an experience. It was by far the best and hardest month of my life. Um, I remember after day 5, I called my wife on my way home and said, "I'm coming home. I can't do this anymore." It was so ridiculously hard. It's just such a high level. I'll never forget. So day 1 was I don't know. Do you know Chef Angus McIntosh?
um, Chef Angus and I worked together briefly.
Okay, yeah. So he was there. He had just started like a few months. before I started my stage. And we knew each other just through social media. So he met me in the courtyard on day one. So that was a cool experience just to kind of have that, relationship. Day one was cool, but I'll never forget day two. I knew I couldn't really grow a beard like I can now back then. Um, but I knew it was clean shaven every day, right? That's just the standard there.
Uh-oh.
Day one, I show up clean shaven, right? Day two, again, I was clean shaven. I couldn't really grow much, especially overnight, so I didn't shave.
Oh yeah.
I show up, the sous chef of the Colmy team. He wasn't there on my first day on day two. Chef Joe, shout out to him. He's still a great dude. I still talk to him. He comes up. He goes, "Hey, who are you?" I'm like, "I'm Ryan." He's like, "I'm Chef Joe. Nice to meet you." And he goes, "We shave every day, right, Chef?" I'm like, "Yes, Chef." And he's like, "Okay." And I'm like, "Okay." He goes, "Did you shave today?" I was like, "No, Chef." And he goes, "All right, I'll see you when you shave."
Yeah.
And like, I mean, that was in Yountville. I was staying at a house in Napa, which was like 20 minutes away. So I had to drive back. I didn't have a key yet to the house I was staying at.
Oh
So I had to
Lord.
jump the fence, break in the window, shave real quick. Um, but no, I mean, overall, it was just, I mean, the French Laundry is, it's not the number one restaurant in the world, but arguably it is.
Yeah, I
Um,
mean it's certainly in the conversation.
yeah, it's just one of those legendary, restaurants that the standards are so high and everyone there has that same goal. The days are long, the pressure's high, but um, it challenges you. But I tell people I learned a ton about food, obviously, and ingredients, but I learned a lot more about how to run a restaurant,
Mm,
and how to treat people, because it really just kind of strips everything away, and everything that you thought you knew, you don't know anymore. You don't know how to cut an onion anymore. You don't know how to open a cooler door anymore. You don't know how to do anything because now you're going to learn it the French laundry way.
right. It's certainly not the same, but many experiences that you just mentioned I had at the Greenbrier.
Yep.
Um,
Yeah.
I can't tell you how many people I could look into the camera and say, I called like a baby in tears crying, saying like I've
Yep.
packed up my car and I'm coming home. I'm leaving
Yep.
West Virginia and I'll never come back. Like
Yep.
um the pressure, the pressure, the stress. It's hard to put into words. And I
Yeah.
always kind of, you know, I'm glad I had some of those experiences.
For
Um
sure.
I'm but I'm okay doing what I'm doing now at the same
Yeah.
time.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, 1 month for me was enough. Like again, I mean, I loved it. And by week two, it seemed like the switch had flipped. I understood somewhat the French Laundry way of things. I
Mm,
had gained some respect of the cooks and chefs there, and after week two, it felt like a different. Like my next 2.5 weeks were totally different. Like I was a part of the team. I was helping, um, and it was never easy, but it was easier,
yeah.
which made it a lot more enjoyable. So
Well, it's funny you say that because I only worked at the Greenbrier for 6 months. It was kind of and that was not the plan, but Chef
yeah,
Rosendale had left like 1 month into me being there, and then I was
sure,
working very closely with Chef Corey Siegel, and then he moved to California like 3 4 months into me being there.
yeah,
So I never felt like I mattered at the Greenbrier until the very
sure,
end.
yeah,
Um, and then I was sad to leave, but I wasn't. I was excited to leave until the end. I was sad to
yeah,
leave because I finally felt like I made connections. Chef Danny Sterling, Chef Angus McIntosh, Chef Joe Peroni. These are the guys that were like leads and stuff like that at the time, and now they're
sure,
all like these huge successful chefs.
yeah, for
Um,
sure.
like Angus is, I think, I know he's got a new gig, but he was with the French Laundry for
Yeah,
many
for a while.
years.
Yeah,
Um, but yeah, I finally felt the camaraderie, and I finally could crack a joke, and people would laugh at me because that's always been my thing was like comedy and trying to
yeah,
have a good time. But
yeah,
that wasn't how you did stuff at the Greenbrier. Um,
yep,
but yeah, I'd crack a joke, and people would laugh instead of look at me like I was a dirtbag.
yeah, for
So
sure.
you do have to earn it. It took me a little longer than two
Absolutely.
weeks, so
Yeah.
that just speaks to your talent. But
Well,
yeah.
I'll never forget. There was one day. So like obviously like family meal, the French Laundry, everybody knows if you have the French Laundry cookbook, family meal is something that Chef Keller really highly takes, doesn't take lightly. And
Right.
so we sit outside for family meal in the courtyard and everything and eat. And for like the first 2 weeks, I pretty much just sat there by myself. Nobody would talk to me. And in that second week, people started talking to me, and I was like, huh, wait a second, I'm like part of the team. Like
Yeah.
this feels cool. I'm like one of the guys now. This is awesome. So it's a cool feeling once that like respect starts to come.
Absolutely. And we had an elevator at the Greenbrier, and I worked in an Italian restaurant with this chef called Danny Sterling. And Danny Sterling, I believe he's working at the Everglades Club in
Yeah,
Florida.
I know Danny. Yeah,
Okay. Danny was ruthless to me, and if he's watching this, which he probably won't, he was ruthless to me, and he knows it. And he had like his black belt and being mean.
yeah,
Um, and he was tall, handsome, great hair. Everybody called him Hair. And he was ruthless to me. And and I'm from Buffalo, and people call each other Buddy.
yeah.
And I had this like pot, and I was behind him, and he was down in his cooler, and he was like writing the story, or writing labels, and I'm behind him, and I said, "Excuse me, behind you, buddy," like because he couldn't hear me, or maybe he just didn't move. And he stood up like as if he was 6'8", 240. He looks at me and he's like, "Am I your fucking teddy bear?" Like he just was ruthless, and it was like, and then a month later, I got in an elevator with him, and the chef was on his way over, and for some reason, neither of us clicked with that chef particularly, but
Yeah.
he was talking to me, and I was saying yes, and I was pressing close the door on the elevator because he was like yelling at me or whatever.
Yeah.
And Danny was also just like we're just like standing there like taking it, but I'm pressing close the door on the elevator,
Sure.
and yeah, he closed the door, and the door finally closed, and I'm like, I don't know what I said. I said something to Danny, and Danny looked at me and just like you could tell he was trying not to, but just he did burst out laughing, and it was like what you said, sitting in the courtyard. Somebody finally
Yeah.
sat with me, and
Yeah. Yep.
it's easy to earn a friend. Or, excuse me, it's
For
easy to
sure.
make a friend, but earning a friend,
Yep.
that's a whole nother ball game.
Absolutely. Yeah, for sure. It feels good when it happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um. So I'm excited. I certainly appreciate your time.
For sure.
I can't wait to see your podcast and your merch and your things that are happening for you. Um,
Yeah.
what do you want people to check out? Your TikTok, your Instagram, all your platforms, or
Yeah, I mean, TikTok and Instagram are kind of my main two things. TikTok is Peter's Pasta, and then Instagram is Ryan Peters PGH. Um, Instagram is kind of more of like my daily life and like more personal stuff, and then TikTok is pasta.
for sure, for sure. Dude, thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it. Blown away by your talent and your hard work.
Absolutely, man.
We'll get you back on soon, and we'll talk more. And I mean, I hate to go into all these war stories and stuff like that, but this is the kind of camaraderie I think that chefs
For sure.
have. Um,
Absolutely, man.
but dude, we'll plug your stuff. But if there's anybody else, anything you want to plug or anything like that, we'll certainly put your links and everything in bios and stuff like that. But if there's
Awesome.
anything coming up the pipe for you that you want to let anybody know, feel free now. So
Yeah, no, I mean that's pretty much it. Just kind of stay on the lookout because I got big things coming. I'm hustling. I'm
that's
that
it.
TikTok grind just like you, bro.
Chef's hustling out there.
That's right.
All right, chef, dude. Thanks for your time, man. I certainly
All right,
appreciate it.
brother.
All right,
Absolutely, man. See ya.
thanks.
Peace.